And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to a special edition of the Hoosier Sound. I am your host, Noah Freeman, and I am delighted to present you with this new podcast. I am here with Matt Lukens and Noah Skibby, and we're here to give you the scoop of some IU sports. We're an IU-centered podcast that focuses on IU sports such as basketball, football, and more from the point of view as a student or a young adult. To end each show, we will also give our view on hot takes from around the world of sports. Today, we bring you the first edition of a series called The Special Segment. Sometimes there will be some news that will just not fit into our normal weekly show. In these editions, we will go into detail on a very specific topic in the world of sports. But speaking of our weekly show, we will be going live every Tuesday evening, and if you miss us live, you can subscribe to our various networks so you can listen on your own time. We are now on iTunes, which is called Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and our live stream will be posted on our YouTube page after each recording. All you have to do is search for it, The Hoosier Sound, wherever you listen to podcasts, and just hit subscribe. The videos will then pop up for you when they are published. It's really simple, really easy, and it would mean a lot to us if you guys just hit that subscribe button for us. Give us a comment below or contact us with what network you would like us to publish our podcasts on. Social media is also big for us, and we post updates for you guys on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you give us a like and a follow, as well as subscribe at our YouTube account. All the information is in the description below. Lastly, you can also check out our website, thehoosiersound.wordpress.com, to find out all our information in one place. All right, it's time for some sports talk. On our first special segment, we dive into recent news about the NCAA scandal that broke last Tuesday, September 26th. 10 people were arrested for fraud and corruption. The underlying reason that people were arrested was because officials were trying to push high school and college players to a specific sports agent and Adidas. The deal was that basketball players would go sign with this agent and then sign a shoe deal with Adidas once they got into the NBA. The FBI busted a guy named Louis Martin Blazer last year for his own fraud and corruption, and he agreed to become an informant for the FBI. Within the past year, Blazer teamed up with an Adidas official, a sports marketing agent, and an undercover FBI agent. They had two ways that they were trying to get these players to the sports marketing agent and Adidas. The first way was how most of these coaches were arrested and by steering their players towards the agent and the Adidas official. The second way involves money. They were giving money to the player and their family to go to that school, sign with the agent, and sign a shoe deal with Adidas. This is where Louisville comes in. Louisville assistant coaches were recorded and caught in conspiring with these people to funnel money into the players' families. So, our big topic, how does all of this affect IU? Well, first, it all comes back to Romeo. Last Wednesday night, said his dad, and it broke on Twitter, he is officially no longer considering Louisville. That means that IU is basically at the top of the list. So we're going to talk a little bit about how this might affect IU, because first, right after all this news broke, there was more Twitter reaction that the Kansas University actually might be on the top of that list when other websites such as 247 Sports has IU at the top and that kind of stuff. Matt, give us your thoughts on Romeo.
Well, first off, I thought it was a gift in disguise. Well, not in disguise. I don't think it was really in disguise, but it was a gift that just showed up on our doorstep that this whole thing went down. Not that I'm, wishing bad things to happen to other programs.
You hate Louisville, we get it.
But if it were to happen to any of three programs, it'd be Louisville, Purdue, and Kentucky. Those three, I'd be fine with it happening. So I have no remorse whatsoever. I do feel bad about it happening to Arizona and whatnot. But if you're breaking the rules, you're breaking the rules. Anyways, I'm so happy that we're getting Romeo.
Hopefully.
Did
you just jinx it?
Oh, no.
I'm sorry,
No. Sorry, I knocked on wood. No, that we have the an even greater possibility of getting him, because our toughest competitor was Louisville.
Yeah.
Because he literally lives 20 minutes from campus.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at
20 minutes from Louisville, folks.
Yeah, 20 minutes from Louisville's campus. So, because New Albany's right across the river. when you've looked into the decision-making process of major college basketball recruits, one of the major factors is how close they are to the given university. So you don't really often see the Marvin Bagleys who go from California to Duke. It's Duke, yes, I understand it, but usually Duke gets those East Coast kids from New York and South Carolina and Maryland or whatnot. And the Arizonas of the world, speaking of them, we'll get to them later, get the recruits from California and Oregon and Washington, the West Coast kids.
All the regions, basically.
Right. And so we usually recruit from the Midwest, and so it would just happen to be like, a treasure chest just sitting there in our backyard. But the problem is that he happened to be even closer to Louisville.
Yeah, even though he's technically
he's an Indiana resident, which is sad. But
so
anyways,
basically, Romeo was. It wasn't even a secret that Louisville was his top choice. It was basically Louisville. Then it went down to IU, Duke, Vanderbilt, and even somewhere down there, the university, Kansas University.
Right.
And then it all changed because he's a 5-star recruit. He's top 5 player in the nation. Most of these top players are going to go through that recruiting process. They're going to vet and milk all of these like visits. They're going to get all of the flash and stuff from all these schools because why not soak it in? You're good. You might as well get all of that jazz and all that stuff from these schools coming in and taking visits, and you might as well. So he wasn't going to make a decision anytime soon, but it wasn't a secret that Louisville was this top school, especially becoming a top 10 team, national championship contender team this year. He could just go in there, have a really good season next year on a really good team, and then just leave. But it now changes with Louisville coming out of the picture.
I don't understand how Kansas has just snuck in. They were a surprise addition to his list of he narrowed it down to 7 schools.
Yeah,
and Kansas was a surprise addition because nobody really saw them on the radar, and this surprise
to an extent just because Kansas always has.
I mean, Kansas is always there.
What I'll say though about Kansas is that, I mean. What you guys said about geography is a major part to a lot of people's decisions. A lot of people decide to play where they can stay close to home, and if that was a sole determinant factor, then Louisville made sense. And now that it's not Louisville, IU makes the most sense. And I think we were talking earlier about how the tweet about how Kansas is on top had like a really weird time frame about how it came out before he had even denounced Louisville. So
a lot of the tweets that Kansas was the front runner came out on Tuesday after all of these sanctions just came out, before Wednesday night when Romeo officially came out that he was that Kansas was out of the picture.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'll say maybe some sources that he has close to him. Maybe he had been talking to him and they got out before he officially announced that Louisville was out of the picture. But I mean, I think also you can't take away the fact that Kansas is Kansas. I mean, Bill Self is going to put forward NBA draft picks and prospects, and then Duke's up there too. Where
Duke's always been up there.
Duke. I mean, it's Coach K. Duke will always put kids in the draft. So I think what's really going to come down to it is, I mean, geography can mean something, but as a 5-star recruit, you're not really going there for the university. You're going to who's going to position me best to get into the NBA. And so I think that's a decision he has to make. Is Archie in his first few seasons going to position him better than well-established legends at KU and at Duke? I think that's the interesting thing going forward. I hope that he believes in Archie, and this is the start of something good, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see him in a Jayhawk or a Blue Devil uniform.
But he excluded Duke from his list of 7 schools. Like, he just got rid of them, right? Like, they were, recruiting him for so long.
Yeah, but basically, hopefully, it's going to be positive for us, but. This entire thing is going to take a really long time. Romeo is going to still use all of his chips. He's still going to go through all of the process and everything. It's all going to It's all going to take a long time. Just because Louisville was off the list doesn't mean that IU still has it in the bag, but it certainly does, Hoosier folks. It certainly does give us some hope for the next season and everything. But that's about all we can talk about with Romeo. Just hope that he can pick us in a few months. Next, we were actually gonna talk about Tom Crean, because obviously the Rick Pitino is basically out of a job, and a lot of people were looking at him, Thad Matta, John Thompson III for this coaching spot. But just a couple days ago, they decided that they were going to go in-house hiring, so it doesn't necessarily affect Tom Crean that much anymore. But speaking of Tom Crean, he did give us a nice little tweet on Friday.
Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
Which makes me surprised. Is, I don't know. I know he doesn't have an affiliation to a school right now, so there's no reason for him not to. But at the same time, does that mean that maybe he isn't really looking to find a job possibly anytime? I can't imagine that in the next few years he won't get another job, because he's a good coach. But does that mean maybe for right now he's taking a break? He maybe just doesn't want to coach?
I don't think I would read that far into it. I think he's more part of the family.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, this is weird. This is first practice weekend, right? This is like what college coaches would call Christmas, basically. This is their Christmas. They love getting back into practicing and, mandatory practices and film session and whatnot. They love this stuff. And so I think this is his first summer in forever.
He's not over a decade.
Yeah,
over a decade.
Yeah, that he's not head coach of a basketball team.
Not affiliated with any basketball team. He's there just at home. He's with his family.
I know. Head coach, literally any basketball team.
Yeah.
He's not on a basketball team. Just sitting at home, wishing that he was here. And I think on his mind, he's part of the family. I'm sure Archie's reached out to him a bunch, and because Archie seems like a stand-up guy. And
into that too, the majority of these guys that are on the team are his guys. So it is just a little thing. Those are his guys. He still cares.
Well, all of them are, except for Race, which is obviously the red shirt. All of them are. But it's not a Tom Crean show. But we just thought we'd get that in there. But next is the death penalty for Louisville. So for those of you that don't know what the death penalty is in the NCAA, because that sounds a lot worse. It's not really.
I kill everyone at Louisville.
Yeah, it basically means that just that sports program. It depends on the NCAA gets to see whether it's the school or just that specific sports program. But it basically means that program cannot participate in sports in that for that entire season. So if Louisville were to if the basketball program were to actually get the death penalty from the NCAA, they could not participate in sports for an entire season. So how could that affect IU? Obviously, this year, if the NCAA were to somehow say that Louisville got the death penalty tomorrow, then IU plays Louisville, and it's a pretty big game coming up. So that means they would not play Louisville this year, which means would we get an extra game? Would we just lose that game? I'm not sure. But I personally don't think, at least this year, it's way too quick for the NCAA to give the death penalty out, at least for this upcoming season. If at all they're going to do it, it's going to be next season and next season only, which would just mean that Louisville it's got some work to do because they've lost all of their recruits and everything. But I think it would be next season. Basically, this season's team, except for the coaches, is basically intact. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
No death penalty, no way.
Not this year.
Not even at all.
At all? Really?
Yeah.
No. Here's why. They killed SMU football.
Yeah.
And
stealing points, man.
Yeah, literally destroyed SMU football.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't recover for 20, 30 years.
I wouldn't even say they're
not recovering.
Because it wasn't that long ago in terms of that.
And most people now don't even know who SMU is unless you literally looked up
basketball.
ESPN for 30.
Basketball's pretty relevant,
but SMU football, diehard football fans, my generation growing up, they're not going to have any idea who they are until they watch that 30 for 30. Now that's how bad the NCAA killed off that program. And it's not just it hurts that university; it hurts all the universities affiliated with SMU.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say they did the death penalty to Louisville. That means that hurts the ad revenue and the revenue of the entire ACCC. So you're looking at Duke,
Triple C.
Triple C, ACC. Sorry, I don't know why I said ACCC. Whatever. CC's Pizza got me thinking. I'm hungry. Anyway, I'm just going. Duke, Syracuse, the whole lot. That's
the ACC is obviously a pretty big basketball.
Big basketball program, and that's the selling point of these. Even Clemson on the other side, but really the selling point is how competitive that league is in basketball. You have Duke and UNC, and both of those huge programs, which bring in a lot of money to the NCAA, would be hurt by a death penalty to Louisville. So I could see a very harsh penalty being given where they're only allowed to play their conference games. They're not allowed to play non-conference, and they're not allowed to go to the tournament. So
you stole my thunder. I was about to say that.
They're still going to play in their conference, and they're going to play all those conference games, but they can't go. They can't really travel anywhere outside of the ACC. And that's just a killer for a program.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still going to be bad, And it's just, I feel bad for all the Louisville fans because you've seen your team in the last 20 years go from the American Athletic Conference to the Big East to now the ACC. Like, you've literally gone up to the ladder of from almost relevant to pretty relevant to extremely relevant in the last 20 years, which is a huge climb for them. And I just feel bad because now it's all kind of going to waste, where I could see them even becoming the Rutgers of the ACC when it comes to basketball.
Well, what I say is 2 points. I agree. I do not think that they will get the death penalty at all. Because, and this is my first point, is first, to my recent knowledge, that unless I'm blanking right now, I don't remember a basketball scandal this big, so maybe it's a little different. I mean, basketball versus football, there are huge differences, and this goes a lot deeper in certain aspects than football. But if Miami wasn't going to get the death penalty in the early 2000s, and if Penn State wasn't getting it for the whole Sandusky Joe Paterno thing, I think that is all because of whenever you bring up death penalty, and if you understand what the term means and you're well versed, you automatically think of SMU and everything that it did to that university and everything that it did for the people around it. I think the death penalty it has to be so like the offense has to be so grand to have it. But the thing is crazy is that I can't even think of what it is because every time that something big happens, we think death penalty and then nothing happens. Yeah. So that's why I don't think that's going to happen
at North Carolina.
I think it's going to come down to a couple factors I don't think we know yet. I think it's going to be how big and how deep this investigation goes because, as people have been saying, the stuff that broke on Tuesday is literally just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more coming out with a lot more people in the stuff that they've done. And I think maybe if this becomes even like twice as big as it already is, and this is already humongous. This is one of the biggest basketball scandals, like period in like
basketball
the history
scandals,
of, like
sports
scandals. Yeah, period. I think that if more comes out as the scandal, I think a lot of people have been starting to talk about that half death penalty that Matt you started to bring up, where they don't play the non-conference games or anything else, no tournaments, no nothing, but they still play those conference games. So those conference teams will still get those games. So the rest of the conference isn't they aren't hurt by any of that. Some of the seedings aren't weird and all that stuff.
It looks like they're not going to Maui for Christmas.
Oh, man, I know.
I'll go for them.
Yeah.
But that's the only way I think that they would be able to do that. Otherwise, I think with the way that their recruits are going to come in and leave within this next year, I think that's almost going to be death penalty enough for them because they're about to lose. They've already lost both of their top 100 recruits, and there was a top 10 recruit for their 2018 class. Their 2019 commit is a little wishy-washy at the moment, but they've already lost a couple days after. They already lost their only two 2018 recruits. Their 2017 recruits are most definitely probably, a lot of them are probably going to leave and jump ship right after this season ends.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be literally just spiraling down just due to all of these recruits.
I mean, I think we're missing the main point of who they lost. They lost Pitino, who might be the greatest basketball coach in the modern era. He has taken two separate teams to national championships. He's gotten multiple Final Fours under his belt with multiple teams. He can play different systems. He rotates guys out. He's makes great NBA players and can see great NBA talent. And this is a guy that's no longer in the sport. And I don't think he'll ever be back in the sport.
He's done.
And he's done. And
with all the other
he is
stuff.
Just the way this has unfolded. He's tarnished what would have been a Hall of Fame career. And he might. I don't think he'll make it in.
Which that's another story for another time.
Yeah.
But more about IU. Last Thursday, this was scandal related, but it was IU's media day. So obviously, 2 days after the scandal broke, Archie's going to get comments about IU if there's any involvement and all that stuff. And basically, Archie just said, I've had a lot of talks with Fred Glass already, and literally a lot of talks, like a couple of days, and just assuring him that there's nothing going on. I don't see any reason for us as Hoosiers fans to see otherwise or to believe otherwise. Archie hasn't. Plus, this is a brand new staff. Archie's done nothing wrong yet. He's not a bad guy. He didn't do anything like that at Dayton at all. I don't see why there's any reason why we can't believe that there's nothing going on. It's basically just the possibility of if the last 10, 15-ish years, if any other IU coaches, IU Green staff, or anyone has done anything. And that's the scary part, because we're also going to talk about how no matter what school you're in, if your coach has been arrested, one of your assistant coaches has been arrested or not, everyone is in hot water right now. Everyone's going to be looked at because we just don't know. You have no idea if one of your assistant coaches has just done even a little bit of that. And all of this, I think one of the biggest things that now that they've gotten these 4 coaches to be arrested, that they're just now, because jail time's being talked about with this, since the FBI is being all involved with it.
Federal prison.
That all of these coaches are going to flip, and they're going to talk, and they're going to sing, and they're just going to give up all of them. They're going to sing to the high heavens. They're going to tell everyone who is involved, and I think this is going to grow 10, 20 times than the size of people. There are some people that are talking about that they think 100 coaches could be fired or talked about within the next few months.
I mean, hey, I've always wanted to be a coach. I don't have a job, so if you want to hire me, I have no experience. But no, with all seriousness, we don't really know how deep the rabbit hole goes. Just because, we're not insiders, obviously. But listening to other people who, have a lot of experience with this and whatnot say that it's going to be pretty big, as you said. But it's just so sad for the sport that this is happening, and I really hope that it's not as big as people find it out to be.
I hope so, yeah.
But just there's so many sketchy situations. You can go back through the years and look at how did that guy go from 3 schools that was looking at him to 1 within a day. Right? Mm-hmm. Just flipped and changed his mind immediately. I mean, I understand the whole visits process and whatever. Looking at Matt Hurt was on campus this week, and he's one of the number 4 in the 2019 class.
Mm-hmm.
But visits help. But just the way Bowen went. Bowen wasn't even being recruited by Louisville until 3 days before he committed, and he's a 5-star. Mm-hmm. That does not happen. You have to have relationships over years. And I think what happened was that Nike wasn't giving him enough money. And Louisville being an Adidas school, Adidas was like, okay, we're going to give you all this money to go. Like, it was $100,000?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, $100,000.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable.
I don't know. I guess like the way that like you said, the rabbit hole goes so deep, and I think it's just because it's just the way that college basketball has turned into. It's turned into this high stakes game, and I think it started with the whole one and done thing. Like you get these guys for a very limited time, and they can really help your program out for not just that year. Like they're only playing that year.
School.
Yeah, they can.
They go to the other team.
Yeah, it's crazy, and because the way that basketball works is that it is a team game, and good teams win championships. But oftentimes you could see that a pretty good team and then one good player comes in and that changes the game, that changes everything, and they can become a national title contender team. But the crazy thing about this is that it's so similar to the way that cycling works. And I don't know, the IU podcast talking about cycling, but the way that everybody...
Little Five?
Everybody that's doping, everybody's doing it. So at this point, you're just looking for... Over the past few years, to me, what it's been with all this coming out is who's been the best at paying their players. Just like in cycling, it wasn't who's the best cycler, because that might not be the case. It's who's the best at doping and then cycling. Who's doing all that. So now cycling's done a very good job of cleaning that up. The only problem though is that it's no longer exciting. People got excited about when Lance Armstrong was winning the Tour de France. Now, are people going to be excited when we are busting down on people paying their players? That's the fear I have going forward with basketball. I mean, everybody loves basketball, but are they going to care anymore after this?
See, I compare the situation a lot to the steroids crisis in baseball, to where I believe it's going to start off with one or two big names, and then it's just going to tumble. It's going to become a giant snowball going down the side of the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Which all that leads back to how recruits are coming in, which is our next topic. Look at that segue right there. It's all of this revolves around recruits, like we talked about. I think that it's going to be interesting within the next couple of years for every school in the nation how this is all going to play out. So relating to IU right now, already in the semester, these Louisville players that are on the team that might want to leave the team right now, it's already so far into the semester that it's really hard for them to transfer. The team that they have right now, besides Brian Bowen, is going to stay the same. They're going to play out the year with whatever coaches that they can scrape up. They're going to play out the year mostly how it is. So right now, we should not look to try and scoop up any Louisville players that are coming in to possibly fill up a scholarship spot or something like that. But Louisville is going to take a recruiting hit, most definitely within the next couple of years.
Sure.
And Louisville is really close to IU, guys. Remember, we just talked about how Romeo is in Indiana, but he was right next to Louisville. Like New Albany is it's a pretty big hotbed some years to get some of these recruits. So it's going to affect IU in almost a positive way, because there are some recruits that aren't going to look at Louisville anymore. And just adding in the fact that a lot of these other schools could have recruiting sanctions means that it could just open it up for IU to possibly have a lot of recruits that we could be looking at.
I mean, yes, but we got to do it the right way.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
Now, especially since they have ears and eyes, and secret ears and eyes are going to be staring at us, especially since we're at Adidas school. But no, I think this is going to be a really weird recruiting year for basketball. I mean, normally you see about half the people, or more than half, commit by the end of the early signing period, which I believe ends at the end of this month or halfway through this month. It's very soon that it ends. And then they wait until the spring signing period when basketball is winding down after March Madness. They'll sign. I don't see any of the really major recruits committing now, and which means we're going to push almost all of the commitments until the second half of the year in the spring, we've never seen this before. It's going to be crazy because people are going to be trying to take spots on every roster that hasn't been picked apart by this scandal. So, I'm excited to see what it's like. It's
Yeah.
just going to be a crazy year, and don't get used to it being like this.
Oh,
For
yeah.
sure.
It'll just be a very, especially if you're just coming into looking at basketball and you're just starting to get into recruiting. Don't get too comfortable with how whatever is going to happen in the next couple of years. It's just going to be
This is crazy.
going to be very different. And hopefully all that will end out positively for IU at least.
We can only hope.
The last thing we wanted to touch on was first of all, obviously. All of this, or most of this at least, as of now, the big company involved is Adidas, and Adidas is IU school. IU uses Adidas, so that's not the best situation. Now, it doesn't mean that the entirety of Adidas is that they're a bad company, but it's not necessarily good that it's happening. It probably means that all of the Adidas schools, regardless of your history, is probably going to be looked at harder. So IU, especially with those all of those NCAA violations with Kevin Sampson 10, 20 years ago, that means we're probably going to be looked at a little harder, regardless of what staff that we had, what staff that we've had in the past. Obviously, like we talked about, I don't see a reason for them to actually find anything, but it just makes it a little uneasy for all of us. I don't think we have any to hide. If we don't, then we're fine, but we really just don't know. Which also leads into IU could change companies. That's a very real thing, and that's a very big thing. These companies are now a humongous part of all of sports, and it's gotten a little crazy, which is the reason for all of this. But IU could change companies. What do you guys think about even just a thought that IU could be changing from Adidas to Nike, Under Armour, or any of these companies?
I personally think in the long run they'll stick with Adidas, just because I think, although we're an Adidas school, I think the one thing that we were talking about with Tom Crean, he's a stand-up guy, and it's what I've seen from so far with Archie Miller, he's also a stand-up guy. I think that we're fine. I don't think we've done anything over the past 10 years, at least under the Crean administration, that would make it even suspicious. I think we're fine. I don't think that we've done anything. But it does say, okay, well, this is a lot of stuff's going on here. Maybe it would help to distance ourselves, and a new company would look good. I mean, I think Nike is the biggest one. I wouldn't mind seeing Nike, just because their products are so nice. They're very good looking. And then when I get to buy some new IU apparel, I get to look fly as well. But even Under Armour has definitely stepped up the game over the past few years. They are putting up very nice products for. I mean, one of the uniforms that I personally really like overall is like Northwestern. They're an Under Armour school, and I think what they've done with their uniforms is very nice. And just you've seen a lot more companies switch to Under Armour. I think even UCLA is now, they switched from Adidas to Under Armour, and I like their jerseys now better than they were before. So, like we said, this could all just be for now. This could be up in the air.
Yeah.
But I am not opposed to it as a fan standpoint, as a student. Like, hey, our guys look cooler now. This is awesome. And as someone who's buying the product, because IU shirts are usually Adidas, the nice ones. But is there a reason to switch? I don't think there really is, other than the fact that maybe distancing yourself from the situation. Unless
Adidas comes out with it's more than just that the head of the global sports marketing stuff. If it comes out that it's just more than that guy, then we might be talking about a different thing. But right now we're just talking about one guy in Adidas.
I know, but it's got to be how does nobody else in Adidas know other than the top global marketing director? He had to have other people do his dirty work for him. I think there's definitely people inside the company that know maybe they're not big enough a name to fire, but maybe they've been fired or
smarter
or whatever, or maybe that he didn't snitch or whatever. So, but I don't see us switching just because Adidas is an up and coming brand. It just passed Jordan to be the second most popular athletic brand in the United States, which for a German-based company is ridiculous. And Under Armour, I'm not personally a fan of either Under Armour or their clothing.
To each their own, I guess.
But of course, I'd love to be a Nike school coming from Florida. All the schools down there, Florida State, were Nike, and then in their heyday, Miami was also Nike. So, I'm really used to their stuff, and I really enjoy their brand and what they bring. But I really hope that we stick with Adidas, and I really hope that Adidas doesn't end up getting hit as much as we think they do.
I think it'll come down to how much Adidas gets hit, when they get hit, and then I actually don't remember when our contract is up with Adidas. Just what happens with Adidas, and then when it comes around to our contract, I don't know.
We just signed a new one, didn't we?
Yeah. So it depends on if Fred Glass, if he's the one still here, if he just feels like, we might as well look into someone else. But I think we still might stay with Adidas, because I think by the time we do a contract, unless things are just so bad, we need to just void the contract and stuff like that. Then I think we'll probably stay with them because they've been pretty good to us. But that about wraps it up for our special segment of the Hoosiers Sound. Thank you so much for joining us, and please feel free to add suggestions in the comments section or contact us through our website. If you guys have any topic you'd like for us to go into detail with, just let us know, and we'll see what we can do. Maybe we can get some other shows like this with your guys' thought. That I think that'd be really fun.
Sounds good.
Reminder to follow us on Twitter at the Hoosiers Sound, like our Facebook page, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe on either our Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and just leave us a review. All the links are in the description below. It really helps us to get that word out there, because the more reviews, the more subscriptions we have, the more our name gets out there. But visit us at our website at thehoosierssound.wordpress.com to find out all of this information regarding our podcast, and stay tuned for updates through social media. Thanks for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.